is the August meeting of the Southwest Vermont Regional Technical School District. Are there any public comments? Seeing none, we'll continue with the consent agenda. Minutes from the June 11th meeting. Are there any comments on corrections? Those in favor of approving the minutes?
Have a motion. I'll move that we accept the minutes.
Second.
Those in favor of accepting the minutes as written? It's unanimous. Payroll warrants. Do you want to take these individually or approve them?
He usually reads them right across, like number 1055 and right across.
I know, I didn't know if anybody had gone through all of the warrants and had questions on any of them. Okay, we'll take payroll warrants 1055, 1056, 1000, number 2, 1002, number 3, and 1004.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor, raise your hand, please, or say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Vendor warrants 1054, 1057, 1058, 1001, 1003, and 1005.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor of approval, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Cash flow statement. I think that's in the Dropbox.
Yep.
Stephanie, we're just on cash flow.
Yeah, there's no action required on the cash flow, it's just informative information for us. Revenue and expenses. That sheet is in the Dropbox too, and it's just informative. Committee reports. I believe we've only had one committee meeting, and that was earlier today. It was a joint meeting of the Finance Committee and the Education and Facilities Committee, and we did take action on first fall enrollment is projected to be up by a few students. We were updated on the budgetary updates. We have money coming in from students that are coming from Hoosick Falls to here that we didn't plan on last year. We were asked to create a new paraprofessional position, and the committee's recommended moving that to the full board for approval. And we also were asked to tentatively approve the creation of an educational community outreach coordinator position that will be paid for by the Perkins grant. And both committees were in favor of recommending that to the full board.
Motion?
I'd move that we hire the paraprofessional position as recommended by the superintendent.
Second.
Those in favor of filling the new paraprofessional position, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
I'd like to move that we hire the outreach person
tentative to the
The acceptance of the
funding by
grant.
Perkins.
I'll second it.
Those in favor? It's unanimous. Superintendent's report.
My turn. Meg, we're going to start with you tonight.
I'm going to report out on two events. The first is that on July 11th, we hosted a Workforce Investment Matters Summit. It was a collaboration between the Department of Labor and the CDC. And it focused on using apprenticeships as a strategy for workforce development. The apprenticeship subcommittee is a committee that was formed through the local workforce and education committee that meets in Bennington. They meet monthly in Bennington. The commissioner for Department of Labor, Lindsay Curry, gave some opening remarks. We got 19 RSVPs to come, but 34 people showed up. So we were definitely very happy with the turnout, and it looks like it's a good start to an important conversation that folks want to have in the community. A lot of people are wondering, you know, how can I engage in an apprenticeship? And so hopefully through these, these kinds of meetings, we can find out from employers what works, what doesn't work, and how can we be a partner in the community and helping to facilitate whether it's a pre-apprenticeship or an apprenticeship. The results from the information that was gathered that day, I can present to you in September. It did involve two different focus groups during that morning. One was a general, have you ever been involved in an apprenticeship? If yes, what has worked, what hasn't? And then additional information about like how can your local CTE center help you with whether it's apprenticeship or anything else. The other thing is the CNC training program that Mike talked about a little bit during the Education and Facilities Committee meeting. That's a collaboration with K&E Plastics, Command, Hale Mountain Research, and now Mac Molding. Those four companies have come together and have asked that we be the training provider for a CNC training program, which would include 3 courses. It would be a beginning course, an intermediate, and an advanced course. We did actually start the first class last week. It's an intermediate course that Adam Canastrasi, our manufacturing technologies teacher, is teaching. And it's being offered to existing employees that are at these companies with the hope that once we kind of iron out the wrinkles or, and get established that the companies will look at current employees as well as future employees to be engaged in the program. We have 9 students enrolled, and we're looking to the Department of Economic Development to assist in funding this program through a Vermont Training Program grant, and that would assist the employers as far as their costs, which hopefully in turn would mean that they would send more students to us.
Great.
Meg, I was at the last Workforce and Education meeting, and as a result of that apprenticeship meeting, one business is already on board. So
great.
They're doing it. They're making
Good.
it. I don't remember who it was.
Oh, that's great.
So results are being yielded.
Good.
So I report that.
Thank you.
I didn't explain the justifications for the paraprofessional position that we just added or the outreach coordinator, and I'll leave that to the superintendent to explain why those two positions are necessary.
Can we do that now?
Yeah.
Sure. So we'll start with the paraprofessional position, which thank you for approving that. As a new position, and it is solely needed based on the number of students we have in the way students are dispersed in our programs, primarily for safety reasons. It's a good problem to have. It is a new position. It's not replacing anybody. It's adding to. Our goal is to have our paraprofessionals in the classrooms as much as possible, and we're always behind, it seems, one to begin with, and this year, based on the number of students and the way they're distributed in classes, we just need another support personnel. Our ESP staff are vital to the success of the school and our students, so it's just much needed for this year.
We ran into the wall of the state law required, if you have more than 16 students in a class, you need a para in the class in the technical center programs for safety of students.
Right, our programs are capped at 21 students, no matter what. That on state regs, after 16, you do need a paraprofessional in there. Although it's not the only place you need a paraprofessional, safety-sensitive programs and occupations also need a second set of eyes and support. And those areas are generally forestry, building trades, culinary arts because of the kitchen, your manufacturing, automotive. Those are your main safety areas, and that's more than half of our programs here. So we just don't have enough people to go around. And as far as the educational community outreach coordinator, the board approved our Perkins plan back in the late spring. It has received substantial approval from the Agency of Education. We're just waiting on final approval from the AOE. There's a new process this year, I think, that we're all learning, and a different system, and just waiting for the right check boxes to be checked off, and the grant should be approved as written. And one of the things written in there was for a education and community outreach coordinator to be paid for by Perkins funding. This position will work on outreach opportunities for students, be a liaison between the schools, attend local committee meetings, participate with our student recognition committee, provide opportunities for students and parents and industry groups for tours, collaborate with center staff, produce press releases updating the community on regional center activities, and working with business industry to develop better and stronger relationships than we currently have. So this will be fully funded by federal Perkins dollars, and if the position is working the way that we want it to, we'll certainly write it in the Perkins plan for next year and potentially the following year. Generally, Perkins can fund positions for 3 years, sometimes 5. That is dependent on the way the state wants to approve the local plan. So that's what I have.
Yeah, I think you commented before that we're the only tech center in the state that doesn't have an outreach coordinator.
That's not, we're one of the few that do not have an outreach coordinator.
Can I ask you just to comment on the new computer that's going to greet you at the door?
It's my superintendent's report.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and those answer your questions okay for the two positions?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll segue with my restaurant report, and we'll start with Jackie's request. For the public that's watching and many students that are listening, we will have a new student and guest sign-in system in the front vestibule here. We've been staging in over the last 2 to 3 years, which we already talked about before, our fob doors and sign-in systems, and we're taking it to the next step this school year. Folks that come in now will, the vestibule and the office will be locked. You'll be able to come in. There'll be a new sign-in system. For those that have used the system at Mount Anthony, it'll be very similar to the same vendor. It's called Identikit. It's just a little bit newer version because we're buying it later, than they did. It will have, we've opted to have a scanner system attached to it so that students will be able to simply scan their student ID, and it will pre-populate the information into the system. It will print tardy passes, sign-outs, etc. For guests who are coming to visit the center, all you need to do is produce your driver's license. It will scan the license and populate the information into the system. If you don't have a license or an ID, you can still manually enter this stuff into the system. It also has the capability to give the administrators an alert in the event that someone who's not supposed to be here is here, via text message and email, and other pieces that we can integrate into the system later on. So that's one of the things that you'll see. It'll be here by the time school starts, so you know, when you visit the school, it'll be a new experience for all of us. Also I'm pleased to announce, just about pleased to announce that we went through our final inspection with the Vermont Department of Motor Vehicles and the Agency of Transportation for us to become licensed by the Vermont Department of Motor Vehicles to become a driver training school. We had the on-site visit the last week of June with Nancy Andrus from the AOT. She came down to inspect the vehicle that we plan to be using, which is the big black dump truck that we bought last year. And also looking at our curriculum, our facilities, and our driving site, or our driving range rather. And our driving range is up at Lower Willow Park. I want to thank the town of Bennington for making that happen. They are allowing us to use that and cone it off when we do need to use as our driving range, as well as keeping it plowed and maintained for us to use when needed. Nancy was very impressed. I think she said we have the nicest driving range in Vermont. We've not been to Lower Willow Park. It is quite beautiful up there. And so that's our driving range. She had some suggestions to tweak our curriculum, and we've sent the final payment in. I believe we've sent the final payment in.
We have something final. We're waiting on.
We're just waiting on the final piece from Nancy, but I'm really happy to report that it looks like very shortly we'll be licensed by the Vermont Department of Motor Vehicles as a driver training school for a CDL-B program to start with, and hoping to upgrade that to a CDL-A program in the future. But that's going to come with growth. We got to start somewhere first, and so.
What's the difference?
The primary difference is you'll have to forgive me. A CDL.
26,000 pound limit.
There you go.
26,001 pounds to get to A versus a B.
And so also like the town dump trucks you see, those are Class B. There's all sorts of add-on endorsements for trailer hitch and brakes, and then a Class A generally is defined, like as Leon said, by weight, but also that would be tractor trailer driving, the box truck. Bus is a different endorsement. They're all kind of subcategories. So
different hours.
Different number of hours and what has to be covered. So we're really excited about that happening. It's been a lot of effort from a lot of folks for basically the whole school year to make it happen. And you know, that's what I have on that.
And for the viewing public, we should tell them when the classes are offered.
We don't have classes scheduled yet. We're waiting on final approval from the Agency of Transportation before we actually do that, because we cannot advertise for the program until we're officially licensed by the Department of Motor Vehicles.
But it's not just for students, correct?
Correct. It is not just for daytime students. It will be also for adult students. Initially, it'll be for our daytime students, but you know, in order to become, so there's a couple pieces to this. You have to be a certified, or excuse me, a licensed school. You also have to be a licensed instructor, which has nothing to do with the Agency of Education. It has to all do with the Agency of Transportation. So for example, Dave Dent's our instructor. Even though he's had a CDL for years and has gone through this, he had to start over again from the beginning with all of his testing, both written and the driving and the backing skills and all those things, in order to be licensed by the Department of Motor Vehicles to actually teach CDL. So we're going to have to do the same process for someone who wants to instruct, if you will call it our evening students or different students. They'll have to go through the same process, find someone willing to do that. And it's really not that expensive, it's just time and energy to do that. So that's, you know, one step at a time, and we're excited about it. Also, I wanted to talk about And I think John wants to talk something about our new experiences camp as well this summer. On July 10th, we've partnered with the Bennington Police Department, the Sheriff's Office, and the Rescue Squad for the last several years in the new experiences camp. We've continued our partnership and grown it this year. So on July 10th, we had 42 students here, ages 11 to 15, along with 7 to 8, I don't remember the exact number, of junior counselors who've been through the program before. Many of those junior counselors are CDC students who came through the new experiences camp and now are our students. And so it was a great day. We were here from 7:30 to about 4:30, and students rotated through in different groups through culinary arts, automotive, forestry, manufacturing, video, and building trades. It was the chef's idea that this year that the students who rotated through in the morning would actually make the lunch for the students and the instructors for the day. So the first few batches, they ended up making a taco station, pizza, and I forget something else. But it was all good food. In the afternoon, students, they produced mozzarella. That's what they made. Automotive, Tom took them through various scenarios, including oil changes, tire rotations, basic vehicle check engine lights, emissions, things like that. Forestry, Dave had 3 stations set up outside, one with the chainsaw station, one with the new dump truck, which kids loved using that, and then also the backhoe. He has a little utility or a little course set up, and so students rotated through that. Manufacturing, Adam had pre-programmed the CNC, because there's only an hour, or sometimes young kids, to cut 3D parts, and they made metal keychains that said either CDC or Vermont on them, and they were cut out by the CNC machine and did some 3D printing with them. Video Productions did just that. They did some video producing, and also Tim worked with them on speaking confidently in front of people and asking questions, and it was very different, and they loved it. In building trades, students built signs of their choice. They got to pick they could do a cutout of a boat or a fish or whatever it was. Brian had like 3 different designs, and then the students, with the assistance of the folks that were used a router to cut their name into it or whatever sign they wanted to, and then they painted it out. So at the end of the day, they were all ready to go home. So students left with that. So it was it's a fun day, and students really enjoy it. I think they enjoy their day, and I know that the partner organizations really appreciate us being part of the camp, and we appreciate being part of it. You know, we also provide the transportation for the week for those 42 students and counselors, and we had to actually up this year. We needed 3 drivers all week and 3 buses and/or vans to take these students around to their different activities for the week. So it was a great week. It's very rewarding. I can't believe it was already a month ago. But John?
Yeah, I just overheard a couple of conversations, one in particular in which a parent was absolutely raving about what a great opportunity it was for the kids to, and he mentioned specifically the experience here at the CDC as a part of that, and just the way that the CDC worked well with the rest of the community that's involved, the police and the sheriff and so forth, and the rescue squad. And it was exciting to hear it. Just, sort of, I was just actually sitting having coffee, and this guy came in, and he was just ecstatic about it. He had his kids with him, and they were kind of, nodding their heads at the same time. So it was really a good experience for me to hear how well it's received outside.
Thank you, John. The last thing I have for my report is for the board and the community and students. Teachers come back, start school on August 27th, which is 2 weeks from today. Teachers will be back in the building for 3 days of professional development on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We have those days all planned. We're doing work with our school consultant, Linda Jackson, that we've worked with her for the last 5 years. She'll be up with us from Kentucky for the first 2 days to be doing some professional development. Teachers will have a day in their classrooms, and then we'll work on we're also going to have a presentation on drug use and vaping and other things that we've seen here at school and are happening nationwide, so teachers can know more about what to look for, what not to look for in their classrooms. Our first day, this year is a very staggered start with all the different sending schools. So our first day here at the Tech Center will be the 31st of August, which is Friday the 31st. That is the first day of 9 through 12 for Mount Anthony. As you know, we juggle Mount Anthony's schedule, which we primarily align with, Arlington's schedule, BBA's schedule, Hoosick Falls schedule. So last year, they all kind of aligned just about perfectly. This year, not so much. This year, we go back a little bit earlier. Arlington goes back a day before us. Burton goes back on the 22nd. And Hoosick Falls doesn't start until September 6th. So try to bring that all together for a common start date. And so our hopefully common start date is the 31st. That will allow most students to begin here. We're working with the Hoosick Falls principal and superintendent to get those students here on the 31st, but they start the next week. That's just what it is. So, but we're excited to have them, and I'm looking forward to a new school year and new initiatives. I'll have a very full report for you in September when we meet on the ongoings from today up until next month. That's the end of my report.
I have a question. So, our September meeting falls on Columbus Day, or no, October?
It's October.
October meeting falls on Columbus Day.
You could probably take that up in the next meeting and choose a different date.
Yeah.
So our next meeting is scheduled for September 10th, Monday the 10th, at 6 o'clock.
One more thing. For the NEASC report, Mike?
Yes.
I would like to ask that at some point, maybe at the start of 2019, if you could just give us an update on how we're coming with the recommendations.
Yes.
It's not a long list, so it was I didn't read every word of the report, but there are a few recommendations here at the end. I think the board would like to know just how we're progressing with these 6, 7 standards that they've made some suggestions for.
Yeah, so
whenever you feel that's appropriate, I kind of wanted to just get it in the minutes so it would be on
No, thank
your
you, Rob, for
radar.
that. What we're going to do is that, I think I said this back in June, but I don't remember, is that the teachers have received other individual program reports because that's what was most pertinent to them for themselves, and they've seen that. And as part of our in-service work on the end of the month, is we're going to start peeling through some of the full NEASC report and hitting on those recommendations and commendations. So there are a lot of commendations in the report. So I want to work with the faculty and staff and then bring the full board. I mean, it's available for you in your Dropbox to look at, but bring the full board up to speed on what we're doing with those recommendations, whether we're rejecting them or accepting them, and how we're going to work with them. So.
And whenever that's appropriate to do, I don't know what timeline you need to do all of that.
I think I'll know better once we get the faculty together and start peeling it apart and seeing what we're doing. So.
All right, thanks.
You mentioned a bunch of other principals. We got a new high school principal.
Yes, we do.
And didn't know whether you had anything to say in terms of meeting.
Yes, I have met Dr. Nixon, the new principal at Anthony Union High School. We've had a couple meetings, actually, one informal and one more formal. It's gone very well. Looking forward to working with Dr. Nixon this school year and continuing our good relationship we have with Mount Anthony. Also, Arlington Memorial High School also has a new principal this year. Sarah Merrill, she is the new principal at Arlington. Hoosick Falls is staying the same. From what I understand, Patrick will remain the principal in Hoosick Falls. And so a couple new principals to work with, and that's always brings with it challenges and hope and new ideas and and things that we might be able to do differently to enhance students time here at the center and at their own high school. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay.
There were a lot of workshops and meetings different people attended this summer. Does anybody have any more comments for the board or the public?
I attended a workshop. That was a request to meet with the CEDS Development Group, and that was with Laura Sabella, I think it was the name. And that was on August 6th, Wilmington will host a small focus group to discuss educations in Wilhelm Bennington for the next 5 to 10 years. And it was an economic strategy board that needed to know and consider regarding what they need to know regarding 12 through K educations and versus the economy and so forth. So it was Bennington and representation from all the different school areas around that met to talk about those different things and things that we are faced with and things that we'd like to see change along that line. So I talked a lot about making sure it was Brattleboro CDC directive was there, and he talked about some needs for things in terms of students in the technical education area, as well as I did in terms of trying to improve the economy and needing the types of things that we teach here at the Career Development Center for those students. That was it.
I don't have anything else, but I noticed that our superintendent here has a newspaper article that's titled, "Not Everyone Should Go to College," and perhaps we should talk about that at some future meeting.
Yes, Ken gave this to me tonight at our subcommittee meeting. I have not looked at it yet, so please don't put me on the spot.
I didn't know where it came from, I just saw it here. And it's something that most of us agree with that have been out in business and industry for a number of years.
Well, that is being talked about in the community as well. The Workforce and Education Group is also, you know, as we talk about things like the Sophomore Summit and Junior Jumpstart and some of these other programs that they do here at the high school, and that topic does come up about not that everyone should go to college, but what percentage of students are going to college, what percentage are going on to technical programs. So it's not just it's a really
I know it's not a black and white, cut and dried career.
Yeah, but the conversation is happening in our community as well.
Seeing no other actions, can I have a motion to
adjourn. Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.